your backyard birds know you're gone. And they react in unexpected ways. Have you ever returned home after being away for several days, stepped into your backyard, and noticed something strange? Within minutes, a familiar bird appears. Maybe it's the cardinal that always sits on the same fence post. Maybe it's the chickadee that visits your feeder every morning. Maybe it's the crow that watches from the tallest tree at the edge of your yard. And for a moment, it almost feels as if that bird knew you were gone, and somehow knew you had returned. Most people assume birds simply react to food. If the feeder is full, they come. If it's empty, they leave. But the truth is far more fascinating. Scientists have discovered that many backyard birds pay attention to much more than seeds and water. They notice patterns, they recognize faces, they learn routines. And over time, some birds become surprisingly aware of the humans who share their environment, which raises an intriguing question. What actually happens in your yard when you disappear for days? Do your birds notice? Do they change their behavior? Do they remember you while you're gone? And what happens the moment you finally come back? Today, we're exploring one of the most surprising mysteries of backyard bird behavior, because the answer reveals something remarkable about the hidden relationship between birds and the people they see every day. And by the end of this video, you may never look at your backyard visitors the same way again. The first thing to understand is that birds live in a world built around predictability. Every day is a sequence of events: sunrise, feeding, territory patrols, water visits, evening roosting. To survive, birds constantly track patterns in their environment. A bird that recognizes reliable food sources spends less energy searching for food. A bird that learns where danger appears has a better chance of staying alive. And a bird that can predict what will happen next gains a powerful advantage. That includes predicting people. If you fed birds in your yard for weeks, months, or even years, your daily routine may have quietly become part of their understanding of the world. They notice when the porch light turns on. They notice when the back door opens. They notice when someone walks across the yard at the same time every morning. To us, these actions seem ordinary. To birds, they are signals, reliable signals. And when those signals suddenly disappear, the change stands out. Imagine a chickadee that has visited your feeder nearly every day for months. Each morning, it hears the same sounds, the same door, the same footsteps, the same human. Then one day, nothing, the door stays closed. The footsteps never come. The familiar shape never appears. From the bird's perspective, something in the environment has changed, not dramatically, not dangerously, but noticeably. And that is often enough to trigger a response. During the first day of your absence, many birds continue following their normal routine. They still visit the yard. They still check feeding areas. They still use their favorite perches. But they also spend more time observing. Birds are naturally curious creatures. When something changes, they investigate. A chickadee may pause longer on a nearby branch. A cardinal may scan the area before approaching. A crow may spend several extra minutes watching the house. These behaviors are subtle. Most people would never notice them. Yet they reveal an important truth. The birds are paying attention. Researchers have repeatedly shown that birds can remember locations, recognize patterns, and adapt their behavior based on previous experiences. Your absence becomes one more piece of information they add to that mental map. As the second day arrives, something even more interesting begins to happen. The birds start updating their expectations. Animals constantly make predictions about the future. If a food source has been reliable for months, they expect it to remain reliable. But if conditions change, those expectations gradually shift. This is exactly what happens when a familiar human suddenly disappears. The feeder may still be there. The yard may look exactly the same. But one important part of the pattern is missing you. Some birds begin checking the feeder less often. Others arrive at different times. A few may spend more time foraging elsewhere, not because they've forgotten your yard, but because they are adjusting to new information. Think of it this way: the birds aren't abandoning the location. They're recalculating it. Their brains are constantly asking a simple question. Is this place still as reliable as it used to be? And every day you remain absent adds another layer to that calculation. Yet what surprises many researchers is how long some birds continue checking, even when no reward appears. Even when the pattern has clearly changed, certain individuals keep returning, again and again, almost as if they are waiting for confirmation, waiting to see whether the old routine will return. And that brings us to one of the most remarkable discoveries in modern bird science. Many birds don't simply remember places. They remember people. For years, scientists believed facial recognition was mostly a human ability. Then the birds proved otherwise. Research involving crows, magpies, chickadees, and other species has shown that birds can distinguish between individual humans, not groups, not general categories, specific individuals. In some studies, birds remembered particular faces for years after a single negative experience. Other studies found that birds could recognize humans who regularly provided food. Think about what that means. The bird in your yard may not just recognize your feeder. It may recognize you, your face, your posture, your movements, your voice, the way you walk across the lawn, the way you refill the feeder, the sound of the gate opening. All of these details become part of a memory. And once that memory forms, it can remain surprisingly stable. This explains why some birds seem unusually comfortable around certain people. The relationship wasn't built in a day. It developed through hundreds of repeated observations. Every visit strengthened recognition. Every predictable interaction reinforced familiarity. Over time, you became part of the bird's environment. Not just another human, a known human. And known things matter. Especially the wild. As your absence stretches into a week, larger changes begin appearing throughout the yard. Bird communities are constantly shifting. Different species compete for food. Different individuals compete for territory. And every reliable resource influences those dynamics. When a dependable feeding routine suddenly disappears, the local bird community adapts. Dominant birds may expand their search areas. Subordinate birds may explore new opportunities. Some individuals become more willing to investigate alternative food sources. Others move temporarily toward neighboring yards. The yard itself doesn't become empty. Far from it. Birds still travel through. They still forage. They still sing. But the pattern changes. The invisible network of daily activity reorganizes around the new reality. What's fascinating is that birds respond differently depending on their personalities. Yes, birds have personalities. Some are bold, some are cautious, some are highly curious, others are extremely conservative. A bold chickadee might continue checking your feeder every day. A cautious sparrow may reduce visits almost immediately. A curious crow might increase surveillance of the property. Different birds make different decisions based on their previous experiences. And that's why no two backyards react exactly the same way. Now imagine your absence continues even longer. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. By this point, many birds have fully adjusted to life without your routine. Yet adjustment is not the same as forgetting. Mirror and expectation are two different things. A bird may stop expecting you to appear tomorrow, but it may still remember you perfectly well. That distinction becomes important when you finally return. Because the moment of return often reveals just how much birds remember. Most people assume birds react only after food becomes available again. But experienced birdwatchers frequently report something different. A familiar bird appears shortly after they return home, sometimes before the feeder is filled, sometimes before any food is offered at all. Why? Because birds respond to more than food. They respond to signals, the sound of the door, the movement in the yard, the familiar shape crossing the porch, the return of a pattern they once knew. For a bird that has spent months observing the same human, those signals can be surprisingly meaningful. Recognition happens quickly, much faster than most people realize. Within minutes, a bird may identify a familiar person and alter its behavior accordingly, approaching sooner, perching closer, returning more frequently, resuming old routines. It's not affection in the human sense. Scientists are careful about making those claims, but it is recognition. And recognition itself is extraordinary, because it means the bird has carried a memory of you through your entire absence. Perhaps the most touching examples come from long-lived species. Crows, ravens, and some other birds possess remarkable memories. Researchers have documented cases where birds recognized individual humans years later. Years. Think about that. A creature weighing only a few ounces can carry a detailed memory of a person across an enormous stretch of time. The implications are astonishing. Some birds may remember the people who helped them. Others remember those who frightened them. And some appear to remember those who simply became part of their daily lives. This doesn't mean birds sit around thinking about humans all day. Their lives are busy. They have territories to defend, predators to avoid, food to find, young to raise. But the memory remains stored, ready to be activated when familiar signals return. And perhaps that's what makes this mystery so compelling. When you leave, your backyard doesn't stop. The birds don't freeze in place. Life continues. The routines change. The hierarchy shifts. The territory adapts. Yet somewhere inside the minds of certain birds, a record of your presence remains. Not because you're special to every bird, but because predictability matters, familiarity matters, matters. The bird on the branch may not understand vacations. It doesn't understand business trips. It doesn't understand moving away. It doesn't understand why the familiar rhythm stopped. It only understands that something once happened regularly, and now it doesn't. So it checks. It watches. It waits, not endlessly, not emotionally in the way humans do, but persistently enough to remind us that memory is not unique to our species. The next time you return home after several days away, pay attention. Watch the first hour carefully. Look at the fence posts, the feeder, the trees, the familiar branches. Notice which birds arrive first. Notice which ones seem immediately comfortable. Notice which ones resume old habits as if no time has passed, because you may be witnessing something remarkable, not random behavior, not coincidence, but the return of a pattern remembered by wild creatures who have been quietly observing you all along. Your backyard birds knew you were gone. They adjusted, they adapted, they reorganized their world around your absence. Yet some of them never completely erased you from their memory. And when you returned, they noticed that too. The yard remembered. The birds remembered. And perhaps that's one of the most extraordinary secrets hidden just outside your back door. If you've ever returned home and noticed a particular bird showing up almost immediately, tell us in the comments which species it was. Your story might be more common and more fascinating than you think. And if you enjoyed uncovering this backyard mystery, don't forget to subscribe to Backyard Bird Mysteries for more hidden stories from the birds living right outside your window. Until next time, keep watching closely because your birds may be watching you too.